Say what you will about trash talking, but the art of getting under your opponent's skin enough to affect his ability to perform at the highest level is a skill in itself. And in the NFL, trash talking has been a long part of the sport, and probably some of the most iconic moments of a game occur when two adversaries go at it with one another. Trash talk is often used in a humorous spirit, but in some cases can obviously cross the line with the use of hyperbole or figurative language. While initially the roots of trash talk came through the 60s and 70s and was commonly used in boxing, former heavyweight boxing champ Muhammad Ali was largely considered the pioneer of trash talk. However, today it is extended across pretty much all sports, from football, basketball, baseball, hockey, combat sports, and even the gentlemanly sport of golf.
These aren't the Falcons you're playing against. Tiger's a pretty good closer.
Same colors though.
Man.
It's the Eagles that I cringe, bro, not the Falcons.
Super Bowl media week leading up to the big game, we've seen countless journalists and reporters look for that huge soundbite, but sometimes certain players really aren't too receptive to the idea of talking. However, on January 31st, 1999 in Super Bowl 33, when the Atlanta Falcons faced off against the Denver Broncos in the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, there would be an exchange of words between opposing players from each team that all the media outlets turned their attention to. These two players would be Atlanta Falcons cornerback Ray Buchanan and the Denver Broncos Shannon Sharpe, who between the two was largely considered one of the game's best trash talkers. Going into the Super Bowl, both teams went into the game with a 14-2 regular season record. However, the Broncos were the clear favorites, with even Vegas having them as 7.5-point favorites. The Broncos had just won the Super Bowl the year prior, defeating the Green Bay Packers 31-24, with Terrell Davis winning the Super Bowl MVP as he rushed for 157 yards with 3 touchdowns off of 30 carries. This was a team that had one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but was primarily a run-based team, with Davis being the main focal point of the offense. On top of that, they had other players on both sides of the field, with guys like Shannon Sharpe, Ed McCaffrey, Steve Atwater, Mark Schlereth, and Bill Romanowski. So, looking to repeat as champions, the Broncos in the 98-99 playoffs easily took care of the Miami Dolphins in the divisional round and went on to face the New York Jets in the AFC Championship game, where they took control of the game with a 20-point third quarter that saw them cruise their way to the Super Bowl. On the other hand, the Falcons, with their first round bye, met a Steve Young-led 49ers team that also included the likes of two of the greatest receivers of all time in Jerry Rice and Terrell Owens. The Falcons were able to take an early 20-10 fourth quarter lead and were able to hang on to secure the win after a Steve Young interception late in the game. And with the 49ers out of the way, the Falcons would go on to having to face the daunting task of beating the 15-1 Minnesota Vikings, who were largely considered an offensive juggernaut and one of the greatest offensive teams led by Randall Cunningham, Randy Moss, and Chris Carter. The Falcons went into the Metrodome as 11-point underdogs as the Vikings set an NFL record with 556 points and won their 9 previous home games by an average of 23 points. Despite all that, the Falcons were trailing much the entire game, but a Chris Chandler 70-yard pass to Tony Martin set up a Morton Anderson 24-yard field goal to keep the Falcons within a touchdown of the Vikings. But late in the fourth quarter, the Vikings had a chance to ice the game with Vikings kicker Gary Anderson, who went the entire season without missing a field goal. However, in dramatic fashion, Anderson missed the kick that would have practically sealed the game as he hit wide of the mark, giving Atlanta the ball back with 2:07 remaining. The Falcons would go on to score the game-tying touchdown and would go on to score a field goal in overtime to win a nail-biting 30-27 win in Minnesota, setting their franchise to their first ever Super Bowl appearance. So, leading up to Super Bowl 33, the war of words between Ray Buchanan and Shannon Sharpe was something the media focused on and kind of fueled themselves by stoking the flames. Here's a clip of the verbal exchange these two would throw at one another with some of the most iconic lines.
He said some bad things about me? What do you say?
He said you look like a horse.
Oh, now I know he ain't talking with them big teeth in his mouth.
The only thing hiding that y'all can't see sometimes is when when he got the helmet on the field. When he got the helmet on the field, I'm telling you, you can't really see how bad that guy looks.
I've never called anybody ugly. Do I think people are ugly? Yeah, I think he's ugly, but I never said that. You just did. He started it.
Shannon think he's pretty. He think he's pretty in the face. He might have a body though. Everybody looking at his body be like, oh, Shannon. But I'm telling you what, man, if you got a grill like that, man, I'm telling you. Total reconstruction.
I'm not going to get into a peeing contest with a skunk. You'll lose every time. But I will say this. On Sunday, he get an opportunity to back up what he said. Is he my friend? No. Did I ever view him as a friend? No. Does I view him as an acquaintance? No. Do I like him? No. If I see him in a snowstorm, his truck is broke down, mine is going perfectly. Would I pick him up? No. Other than that, I could care less about Ray Buchanan.
Guys, if you enjoy this video and want to see more stories like this, make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It doesn't cost you anything, and you could always unsub or turn off notifications at any point in time. So while these two were throwing barbs at one another, kind of resembled two 4-year-olds going at it, there was actually a lot more said than what was on the clip, with Ray Buchanan going on to say Shannon can always win because he can talk, but Shannon looks like a horse. I'll tell you, that's an ugly dude. You can't tell me he doesn't look like Mr. Ed, and he talks a lot. I'm waiting for him to show his teeth and go. Now, for those of you who don't know who Mr. Ed is, Mr. Ed was a popular American sitcom from the 60s that involved a talking horse. Buchanan further threatened to butcher Shannon with a butter knife, then suggested the Falcons will do Sharpe physical harm in the Super Bowl and pay the consequences of a fine later. Anyways, with this soundbite, the media took this and quickly relayed to Shannon that Buchanan found him less attractive inside and out, and the tight end clapped back saying, "I'm really not concerned with my looks. I am fine. I'm not trying to be Tyson Bedford. I'm not trying to be in a Calvin Klein ad on the billboards in Times Square. I'm a football player." And then you have guys who try to worry about their looks, like Ray Buchanan, who worries more about his looks and putting on makeup and eyeliner than playing football and covering receivers. Tell Ray to put the eyeliner, the lipstick, and the high heels away. I'm not saying he's a crossdresser, that's just what I heard. And this would get back to Ray, and the two would exchange words back and forth, with the DB replying back, "Shannon just runs his mouth saying anything, so we don't need to pay attention to him. He better watch out for himself because he might get knocked out like he did that last game." This was in reference to the mild concussion Sharpe suffered in the third quarter of the AFC Championship game. We're not a team that's going to go out on the field and pull up our skirts and show our panties. I'm not saying we wear panties, I'm just saying that we can't go out there and play like females and win the game. I'm not hard to find. I'm number 84 and I've got the biggest mouth on the field. Tell Ray I'll be looking for him also. Now, it's kind of hard to say who won this war of words, but both players clearly got their shots in before kickoff. But I think Ray Buchanan kind of bit off more than he could chew, as he guaranteed a Super Bowl victory for the Falcons when he stole the spotlight at Media Day by showing up in a studded dog collar, symbolizing the Falcons' underdog status. And during the game, Sharpe was involved in the offense early on, and he almost scored a touchdown, but to only be stopped just short at the 1-yard line after he took a hit on his knee and was flipped over by none other than Ray Buchanan. Shannon never recovered and did not return to the field. With that being said, the drama between these two was not the only controversy surrounding the two teams leading up to the game, as there was another embarrassing incident involving Falcons safety Eugene Robinson. On the night before the Super Bowl, Robinson was arrested for solicitation of prostitution. While driving alone in a rented car along a downtown Miami street, he approached a female police officer posing as a prostitute and offered $40 for her services. Although he was released from jail and allowed to play the game the next day, he was widely denounced by the press and fans for the incident. But the kicker of the story ironically comes the morning of the day Robinson was arrested for the incident, as he had received the Bart Star Award for his high moral character. And lastly, the final controversy during the week surrounded Falcons head coach Dan Reeves, who was also the Broncos head coach up until the 1992 season. Reeves was a head coach who had brought in both Mike Shanahan and John Elway to Denver. However, after a feud, Reeves had fired his offensive coordinator after only 3 seasons. Fast forward to 1992, and Broncos owner Pat Bowlen had fired Dan Reeves in place of defensive coordinator Wade Phillips, mainly due to the constant clashing of heads between the head coach and his quarterback. These were two accomplished individuals with big personalities, so you can understand how having two of these guys as the main leaders in your locker room kind of ran its course. Elway was a California Golden Boy in '83, and Reeves was from a small town in southern Georgia, so the two were kind of opposites from their upbringing. And it didn't help that in Elway's rookie season, the coach benched him in week 5 in place of Steve DeBerg. Anyways, after Reeves left, he ended up taking over the reins in New York with the Giants and later in Atlanta, who were kind of the laughingstock of the league at the time. Mike Shanahan, after having a successful spell with the 49ers, would be called back to become the head coach for the Denver Broncos. So this was one of the main stories during media week, as the two coaches threw jabs at one another, and one day after Dan Reeves called out Shanahan for not having his best interest in mind during their time in Denver, the Broncos head coach stepped up his attack, basically calling Reeves a liar. The Broncos head coach would go on to say that he could not respect a coach who could not be upfront, and admitted that he and Reeves could never be friends again. The main problem that annoyed Shanahan was Dan Reeves' accusation of insubordination. On the day Reeves fired Shanahan in 1992, Shanahan said Reeves told him he was doing it because he wanted to call the offensive plays. But later that week, the Denver Post ran a story that said Reeves fired Shanahan for insubordination, something Mike didn't find out until he read the newspaper. The drama between these two during the week got so much coverage that anytime either would try to focus on the game, questions from reporters would always revert back to the pair's ongoing beef. Questions then began to arise of Shanahan and Elway scripting plays behind Reeves' back while he was in charge of the Broncos. Something Elway vehemently refuted, as he would go on to say, "I don't know where that came from. Dan had given me the ability and he allowed me to call the plays. I just know, thinking back, that everyone had their own different opinion, and the way Dan was looking at it was totally different from the view that I'm sure Mike was looking at. I know it was different from the way I was looking at it. So it's hard for me to understand why this situation got to where the situation did." Anyways, that was it for the drama leading up to the big game. Super Bowl 33 was anything but entertaining, as the Broncos easily took care of the Falcons to the tune of 34-19. Elway won the Super Bowl MVP and immediately retired on top. Given how the game went, it's hard to imagine today a Super Bowl where the media week overshadowed the actual game. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and comment below and give me your thoughts.